I Sodi is an incredibly popular and highly revered Italian restaurant in New York City. In fact, reservations from the establishment are some of the most sought after in NYC. They're famous for their lasagna, which many say is among the very best. Without question, I had to give I Sodi a try.
It's a beautiful evening today here in New York City. Right now I'm along the Hudson River and I'm just relaxing / recovering from my excellent and very filling dinner. I went to one of the most notable and most popular Italian restaurants in all of New York City, I Sodi. However, I wasn't planning to go to I Sodi today. In fact, I wasn't planning to go to any restaurant today. But the thing was, I had some business to take care of in the West Village, and those plans fell through. As a result, I had nothing to do, and I was quite hungry. So I thought I would take advantage of the situation and go to one of these restaurants that are somewhat hard to get into. The first place I tried was 4 Charles Prime Rib, and I was quite surprised. I got there at around 3:10. There was already maybe 15 to 20 people in line, which I thought was surprisingly a bit long for being a Monday in August. That wasn't a big deal. I do have plans to go there at another time to begin with, so I had a backup option. I then tried the corner store, and there was about maybe 10 or so people already in line, and I got there maybe an hour and 15 minutes before it opened. I was surprised that people actually still care about that restaurant. And when I say that, I mean care about it to the extent that they would wait that long in front of it before it opens. Then I thought about I Sodi, which is a good one because that actually opens pretty early at 4:30, and I was hungry and I wanted to eat as soon as possible. I got there about 25 minutes before the restaurant opened and no one was there. I was king of the line. The restaurant is probably most famous for their lasagna, and that sounded pretty good to me. Of course I got some other courses too and had one hell of a meal. So with that being said, this was my dinner at I Sodi.
I Sodi is situated on a corner in the West Village, but originally the establishment was housed in a much smaller location that was also within the neighborhood. The new location of I Sodi opened in 2023, but the original restaurant was established back in 2008 by Chef Rita Sodi, who drew inspiration from the small family farm where she grew up just north of Florence. Chef Rita Sodi is self-taught and has garnered acclaim and a number of accolades for her restaurants and cooking, including the 2019 James Beard Award for Best Chef NYC, which she won alongside her wife and partner, Jody Williams. Besides I Sodi, the pair have opened a number of other successful restaurants in NYC, including the nearby Via Carota, which Pete Wells ranked as one of the best 5 restaurants in NYC on his annual Top 100 New York City Restaurants list. I'll definitely visit Via Carota in the future, but that day I was all about I Sodi. The restaurant can be a difficult spot to score a reservation, but thankfully it seems that their bar is reserved for walk-ins, which was where I was seated when I Sodi opened their doors. Inside, the restaurant is rather simple in terms of design, with rustic wood accents. I didn't think it was anything special, but it got the job done. In the back of the establishment, however, is a beautiful and tranquil outdoor dining setup. Once I settled in, I began to explore the menu. The Tuscan-style cuisine is divided into 3 sections: Antipasti, Primi, and Secondi. My server also told me about a few specials that the restaurant was offering that day, but since it was my first time, I decided to stick with the main menu. I also asked my server if I was ordering too much food, and he assured me that it was a lot, but I figured he didn't know me and I just ordered what I wanted anyway. In hindsight, I should have listened to him. In the meantime, I checked out the beverage list, which included an extensive selection of Negroni variations along with some other classic cocktails, but I felt like a glass of wine. I decided on getting a glass of the 2022 Chianti Classico Baradenga Falsina. Honestly, every time the word Chianti crosses my mind, the first thing that I think about is Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs, but after trying that wine, I had a new, more pleasant association with the beverage, as that Chianti proved to be delightful. It really hit the spot and would prove to be very drinkable, especially when having it paired with food. Speaking of food, I was quickly presented with the bread course that also included olives and olive oil. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but that bread course came with an extra charge. My server asked if I would like bread, and I of course said yes, thinking that it was included with my food. However, later when I got the bill, I discovered that the bread came with a $5 charge, which annoyed me. Although the bread was at least good, it was warm and fresh and paired nicely with the olive oil, which was actually seasoned. I also enjoyed munching on the olives as well. In fact, I think that the $5 charge is a fair price, but the issue is I wouldn't have gotten the bread if I knew it came with an extra cost. Even though I liked it, the bread took up valuable stomach real estate, and I wanted to save that space for the more exciting courses on I Sodi's menu. Soon enough, I was presented with the first dish that I actually knew that I was paying for. I got the insalata mista, which was a simple baby mix spring salad. I thought that it was a generous sized portion, which was beautifully constructed. I was certainly eager to give it a go, and I wasn't disappointed. To put it simply, I thought that that was a very pleasant salad. The greens were crisp and fresh, and the vinaigrette on the course was delightful and perfectly balanced. That salad was the type of dish which nicely awakens the palate and gets one excited about the food ahead. I also have to mention the price of the course. It was only $13. For a popular, well-reviewed Italian restaurant like I Sodi, and considering the large size of the dish, I thought that that was a great deal for New York City. So far, my dinner was off to a solid start. Next up was the signature dish of I Sodi, and the course that I was most looking forward to, the lasagna al sugo. The lasagna dish consisted of a hell of a lot of layers of house-made pasta with a sugo de carne, bechamel, and parmigiano. Now, I've seen tons of photos of that dish, but none of them did any justice to the sheer size of that lasagna. It was much larger than I thought it would be. It was a veritable cinder block of pasta, meat, and cheese, and I couldn't have been more excited to try it. That lasagna was outstanding. On every level, it delivered. I loved it. As a whole, it's a simple dish, but every element of the lasagna was executed to perfection. The pasta was perfectly cooked, and it was held together nicely by the flavorful meat sauce. Each bite of that lasagna went down so easily. The texture was truly on point. I also loved the addition of the Parmesan cheese, which added such an incredible umami kick to the course. Now, when it comes to lasagna in New York City, two restaurants often get mentioned, I Sodi and Don Angie. While I have enjoyed a great meal at Don Angie, I've yet to try their lasagna, which is a bit more of a modern take compared to what I Sodi offers. I'll definitely have to give Don Angie's lasagna a try, but for the moment, I thoroughly enjoyed I Sodi's version. After finishing, it was on to the main course, the coniglio in porchetta, which consisted of rabbit with slices of pancetta and roasted with rosemary and garlic. The dish is another of I Sodi's signature offerings, and once again, the portion size was fairly generous. In fact, it looked even larger to me because at that point, I was already a bit full from the rest of my dinner. Nevertheless, the dish looked great, and I was eager to give it a try. The rabbit was incredible. Once again, I Sodi knocked it out of the park. First off, I hardly ever get to eat rabbit. It is a phenomenal meat, which I love. I know that it's cliche to say, but it does taste like chicken. However, what I Sodi offers is a lot more than that. The meat was so tender and juicy, and the flavors of rosemary and garlic came through in the most pleasant way. I also loved the crispy slices of pancetta cradling the rabbit, which added a nice saltiness and savoriness. Plus, with the way how that dish was sliced up, it made it ideal for sharing, which I noticed was what a number of other diners were doing in the restaurant, not just with that particular dish, but all the courses. Besides the rabbit, there was a good heap of chopped spinach on the side, which I also found to be delightful. It was nicely seasoned and had a good texture. Plus, it was good to enjoy something besides just meat to ensure against getting palate fatigue. Overall, the cornillo and porchetta was an amazing dish, but I was stuffed and had no room for dessert. Now, I always like ending a meal with something sweet, but considering how full I was, I just wouldn't have been able to appreciate a dessert. So when I finished, I just asked for the bill. In total, my dinner set me back $112.14, but with my tip, I spent about $133. When I saw that receipt was the moment I discovered the surprise charge for the bread, which I wasn't happy about, but considering the generous portions and the quality of the food I had, I wasn't too upset. Frankly, I Sodi seems like a bargain compared to most of the other popular fine dining Italian restaurants in New York City. For instance, I paid $35 for a simple and rather small portion of a spaghetti pomodoro from Emilio's Bellato. While I did enjoy that dish and Emilio's Bellato in general, it pales in comparison to the quality and value I Sodi offers. To put it plainly, I really enjoyed my time at I Sodi.
So that was a really enjoyable dinner. I had a great time at I Sodi, but I do feel bad I didn't get a dessert. You see, the thing is, I'm not used to getting reasonably sized portions sold for fair prices at a popular New York City restaurant. Those things you just don't see together. The other thing is too, it's been like an hour since I ate and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I could actually go for that dessert now. But whatever, the food I did have was really, really good and enjoyable. First off, that lasagna lives up to the hype. That was unquestionably one of the best lasagnas that I've ever had. But the other food I had was so good as well. In fact, that rabbit was probably as good as the lasagna or better. That was fantastic. Without a doubt, I Sodi is one of the best Italian restaurants in New York City. And the fact that they offer reasonably sized portions of food with fair prices makes it even more appealing. Overall, today was a really random day, and not everything worked out. But in the end, I got exactly what I wanted, and that was good food. To sum things up, I Sodi is a fantastic Italian restaurant. It's one of the best in the city, and their lasagna is truly top tier. I will definitely be back to I Sodi, and next time I'm gonna try to exercise a little self-control when it comes to ordering, and hopefully I'll have room for a dessert.